Hello everyone, this is Lam here, and this video will be the last video for Photokina 2018. I know there's plenty of more information out there, but I'm kind of tired of making videos for this particular event. But before we actually end that series, I do want to talk about Panasonic, mostly because their GH5 is so good, GH5 and GH5S. This is one of my favorite cameras to use. This is actually the studio camera. It's not my personal camera. As many of you know, I use the Fuji stuff for all of my personal projects. But when we actually have some studio work, this is the camera that usually goes, and then we can use the Fuji cameras sort of as a backup. As a micro four thirds camera, a lot of people want to hate on this, but to be honest with you, this is the most capable camera that we have in use. I mean, there is some flaws, or not flaws, but there are some drawbacks to just having a contrast detect autofocus systems, but you can easily work around them as long as you're willing to give it a chance and work out a workflow that'll work for you. Especially with these lenses, there are a lot of parafocal lenses that covers the entire range. With these parafocal lenses, they actually make great ENG cameras. So all around, we really do love this camera. Now, having said that, Panasonic at Photokina just kind of announced. The reason why I say it's kind of announced, because they didn't really give us a lot of information. It was really vague. It really reeked of, please stop, don't leave us. We're going to come out with some really cool shit, so just stick with us, as they frantically work to come out with their next generation of cameras, which happen to be full frame. Don't get me wrong, I think there's still a lot of benefits to Micro Four Thirds that a lot of people just conveniently like to ignore, but that's neither here nor there for this particular video. So instead of speculating on what it could be and what it might be, what I really want to do is I want to go over a wish list of what I would want in my next generation of Panasonic mirrorless cameras. The first thing on my wish list would definitely be having multiple USB-C connectors on my camera body. The reason why I say that is because they are so useful. If you look at what Blackmagic is doing, they're using USB-C to output to an SSD. So in the new cameras, we know that it's coming with an XQD card, which I think is a terrible idea. I think they should replace that with an extra USB-C port and allow people to export out to an SSD. Because the SSDs are so much more affordable, the XQDs are super expensive, whereas you can buy a 500 gigabyte SSD that's really small, it's about that big, and it's only going to cost you $100. For those people who really want fast throughput and also huge size at a very affordable rate, SSDs are the way to go. You really don't want to depend on the XQD format or any of the compact flash formats. We've been hearing for a very long time that they're going to come down in price. They have a little bit, but they're still extremely expensive because not a lot of people need that type of card. Only a few cameras really need it. Whereas with SSDs, almost all laptops and computers nowadays use that technology. So they're already affordable, and Blackmagic in their $1,300 camera has proven that it's good and it's reliable. And a lot of people have already given feedback on that. So I think that is a much better way to go. Now, having said all of that, there's another thing that I really would want, and it's kind of related to USB 3s, and is, can we replace this input? I mean, this is an old archaic input. It's no longer needed for our battery grips. It can actually replace the interface down here. Can you please just replace it with a USB-C port and then just have a plug on this side and make this thing more modern? This thing is like $300 and there's barely any technology in it, okay? It's a few buttons, an interface with power, which USB-C can clearly and easily do, and it's wildly overpriced. What I would really want is this to become a USB-C hub so that we can actually make it useful for more than one thing, okay? It can be a battery, but it should be able to do much more than that. Let's go ahead and modernize this, especially if you're going to make us pay $300. Considering the knockoff brands are usually around $50, the price difference is entirely way too high for me to think that this is worth $300 in any way. So let's modernize this with a bunch of technology. That way it's actually worth the $300 price tag. The other reason why I would say this is with a USB-C port down here, since I'm not a big fan of battery grips anyways, it gets me another port that I can use either for storage or for power. And it's just another easy and convenient way to get another USB-C port, which is something that I really want. So the next item on my wish list, and it's something that's already available in most of the high-end cameras, and that is these things are already packing Bluetooth for wireless connectivity. So can we actually get wireless audio working on these, please? I'm pretty sure it's already 90% implemented. The hardware is already probably in there. All we really need is the interface to talk to our audio devices via Bluetooth. This would save us a lot of trouble and it would be so convenient. So can we just go ahead and get that going? Plus, there's also a lot of other things that I think we can convert over to Bluetooth. If you think about it, there's a lot of ports on here that are pretty old and archaic. I think it's time to really take a look at them and really start removing the ports that we really don't use with either wireless technology or USB-C technology, because that would theoretically reduce the design costs, I would think, and also with less ports, it should free up more space for other ports that are more modern. At least that's my way of thinking, but I would dearly love to actually have audio via Bluetooth on all of my high-end cameras because that would be so useful for our video purposes. Okay, so this is the last item I will suggest for the camera body. I do want to keep this video short. I don't want to bore you guys too much. But the last thing I will really want to talk about is the screen. Okay, there's always this constant debate on the flippy screen over the 3-axis screen, and it's never going to end. And I understand that. There are a lot of photographers that absolutely hate the flippy screen. I totally understand that, and there are a lot of people like me who absolutely love the flippy screen and would want it on every one of their cameras. You're never going to win the debate. If you're going to do it one way, you're going to anger one part of the community. If you do it the other way, you anger the other part of the community. So instead of actually making a decision, can we instead make the screen modular? So we can actually plug and play different screens with different accesses for our own needs. That way, we don't have to pick, okay? You pick a camera body and then you pick the screen that'll work for you. Let's go ahead and build a design in which you can actually just put in the screen that you want. And then if you decide that it no longer works for you, you can easily change it up. I'd much rather see something like that. I would also like to see the same type of technology on these hot shoes because I've probably owned like 20 cameras and I think I can count on one hand how many times I actually used the electronics in here. There's just not too often where we're actually using, it's usually here to mount something other than one of these flashes. And if you're going to be doing that, I think a more modern connection would be much easier to use and much better because it will be much more flexible. So those are the top 3 things that I would love to see modernized on the camera bodies, because when you look at it, there's still a lot of old technology that's just floating around for no reason. And there are a lot of design features that should be a little bit more customizable on these high-end cameras, because most things nowadays at this cost point is very customizable. So the last item I want to talk about are actually the lenses, since they're coming out with a lens mount like everybody else, which admittedly enough, them partnering with 2 other companies to produce a lens line is super smart because they're basically going to work 3 times faster because there's more manufacturers actually producing lenses, which is great. Although Leica really isn't one because like all their stuff is so super expensive. I don't think anybody's really going to go that way. And if you do own those premium Leica lenses, you're most likely going to be using a Leica body. Unless you want to do it for video. In that case, you would probably go Panasonic. That's the only thing I can think of. But one of the things I do want to talk about for the new Panasonic L mount is that I hope they come out with lenses that, one, a set of them is going to be parafocal like this lens right here because it's super useful for video. There's not a whole lot of parafocal lenses out there, and the ones that are out there, they're really useful and they're very valuable. If they can make a set of parafocal lenses early on, that's really going to help us video guys out. Also, what I would like to see is a parafocal lens that actually has a motor for its zoom drive. With the Panasonic app, if we actually had a way to motorize the zoom lenses, we can pretty much set up the camera remotely. If you put it on top of a gimbal, all of a sudden you would have pan and tilt controls, and it's going to be a completely remote camera that you would never have to touch. That would be something that's super cool. So that's something that I hope will happen. So that's it for me on this particular video. Please share your thoughts on what you would like modernized on the camera bodies. Is there things that you would want to put into it? Are there things that you want removed? Please let me know. It's always interesting. As we spend quite a bit of money on these things, it's definitely nice to modernize them as much as possible. Give the camera manufacturers some ideas, but for the most part, we'll see what we're going to get because I'm pretty sure the design's probably already set. But it's always fun to actually make a wish list. So hopefully you're having a good week, and until next time, you have a good day.